I am in truth the only remaining immortal emperor in this entire world, yet I have been forced to pose as a mere mortal, living in obscurity. For 100 years, I have lived in these vast mountains, never using flight techniques to travel, and relying only on a bow and arrow for the hunt. All of this is because years ago, just as I was on the verge of breaking through to the Immortal Emperor realm and sought to escape my current predicament, the system informed me that this world could not yet withstand the power of an Immortal Emperor. Thus, it sealed me within these mountains, forbidding me from descending, solely to prevent mass panic among all living beings. What kind of system are you, exactly? Are you truly intent on trapping me in this dilapidated mountain range until I die? And so I remained in these mountains, waiting for another 9,972 days. But today a stunning young woman appeared, pursued by 3 burly men. The system immediately issued a mandatory quest: save this woman, and the host shall be granted the breakthrough to the Immortal Emperor realm. I agreed without a moment's hesitation. Dealing with those 3 men would have been simplicity itself for me, yet the moment I stepped out of my wooden cabin, the system instantly sealed my entire cultivation base. What is the meaning of this? Why has my cultivation detection host has left the wooden cabin, sealing all cultivation until the host returns to the cabin and the seal is lifted? And so, what was meant to be a rescue mission turned into me being protected by the young woman instead. It was not until the moment we retreated back into the cabin that my aura suddenly surged. With a mere wave of my hand, I obliterated those 3 men. Before the woman could recover from her shock, she collapsed, gravely wounded. To save her life, I demanded an elixir from the system for her to consume. To my utter disbelief, this treacherous system provided a Dragon Phoenix elixir. While the healing properties of this pill are extraordinary, its effects can only be fully realized through the intimacy of a man and a woman. Just like that, I only lost my virtue but also earned the deep resentment of that woman. Once her wounds were healed, she glared at me fiercely before turning and walking away. I had assumed that our paths would never cross again in this lifetime. Yet 2 years later, a general from the imperial court arrived, placing an infant girl, barely half a year old, into my arms, and declaring that she was my daughter. At that same moment, in a magnificent palace thousands of miles away, a breathtaking woman sat regally upon the throne. She is none other than the current empress of the Qingwu dynasty, Su Roshue. 2 years ago, she encountered a bottleneck in her cultivation. Seeking a breakthrough, I ventured deep into the great mountains, never expecting to be ambushed by 3 great imperial dynasties, nor to encounter that utterly shameless scoundrel. With cultivation depth as unfathomable as his, he feigned the status of a mortal, deceiving her and stealing her innocence. Damn it, if not for the fear of being targeted by those 3 imperial dynasties, I would never have entrusted Qing'er to a wretch like you. Once I have dealt with the 3 dynasties, I will personally retrieve Qing'er and make you pay the price. On this side, after the system's blood verification, it was confirmed that this is indeed my biological daughter. As a first-time father, a sense of unprecedented warmth and fortune surged within my heart. Yet, the infant in my arms did not share these sentiments. Su Qingyu is now the daughter of the Empress of the Qingwu imperial dynasty, though in her past life she possessed a formidable background. She was originally an Immortal King powerhouse from the upper realm, known as the peerless Immortal King, but while exploring a secret realm of an Immortal Emperor, she was carelessly ambushed by 5 Immortal Kings acting in unison, and ultimately outnumbered, she fell within the secret realm. Just you wait for this, king. When I return to the upper realm, I shall have you shredded into 1,000 pieces and cast into the celestial dungeon, forever denied the cycle of reincarnation. Seeing the murderous glint flash in my daughter's eyes, assumed she was hungry and hurriedly pulled out a bottle filled with fresh beast milk, shoving it into her mouth. Su Qingyu, lost in her memories, was startled by my actions, though she was unable to speak. In her heart she shouted, "Mortal, what are you doing? What are you shoving into my mouth?" Amidst her confusion, she saw the phantom of an ancient great beast manifest behind the milk bottle. As the knowledgeable Immortal King, she immediately realized this was a potent, soul-nourishing beast milk. Only beast capable of manifesting such a phantom could possess such power. It seems my foster father's strength is far from simple. Yet, why can I not perceive a single shred of cultivation fluctuation upon him? The following day I noticed something peculiar about my daughter. Despite being less than a year old, she would not sleep at night, instead sitting cross-legged in cultivation. I could not help but wonder what kind of world this truly is, as I have never stepped into the outside world, and my knowledge of cultivation is entirely non-existent. As for the extent of my own strength, I am not entirely sure, but I vaguely sense that with just a single thought, this entire world could be reduced to nothingness. To use the system's own words, I have reached the Immortal Emperor realm. This world is a lower realm. There are countless lower realms, but only one upper realm exists. When cultivators in the lower realms reach the 9th heaven of the Great Emperor realm, the heavenly Tao will inevitably ascend them to the upper realm. Consequently, the lower realm cannot withstand the sheer magnitude of power belonging to the immortal realm. Yet, I am the exception. Years ago, when I broke through to the Great Emperor realm, the system gifted me a robe capable of concealing all things, a tool used to deceive the heavens itself. Just then, Su Qingyu staggered toward me, clutching an old weathered book in her small hands. She babbled something incoherent. Though I was perplexed, I accepted the book from her. The Chronicles of the Upper Realm. This was a book I had claimed as a reward many years ago. I recall it being a record of the major events that transpired in the Upper Realm. Honestly, if I were not trapped in this godforsaken place, why would I ever bother reading such a dull volume? This book is called The Chronicles of the Upper Realm. It contains many stories. Shall father tell you one? I turned the page, happening upon the exact entry Su Qingyu had just been looking at. The large characters immediately caught my eye. Immortal Immortal King. Be a good girl and look, this is the renowned Immortal Immortal King. Is she not beautiful? Upon hearing this, Su Qingyue's eyes widened into perfect circles. The book recorded that the Immortal Immortal King was born to the Luoyu exotic tribe in the Upper Realm. She served as a saintess and possessed the heavenly spirit's sacred body. She was ranked third on the Upper Realm's list of beauties. 3,000 years ago, the proving Tao Immortal King had never known the taste of defeat. 1,000 years ago, when the Immortal Emperor's secret realm opened, the Immortal Immortal King ventured in alone. Regrettably, she was ambushed by 5 other Immortal Kings. Overwhelmed and outnumbered, she perished at the age of 6,500. Staring at these lines, Su Qingyu's body trembled violently. Have I truly been dead for so many years? Her small hands continued to flip through the pages, reaching a record that was far more recent. Nangonghua, Immortal Emperor Realm. 1,000 years ago, she joined forces with 5 other Immortal Kings to slaughter the Yuelu Immortal King, seize the Immortal Emperor's legacy, and successfully break through her cultivation realm. Gazing at the face in the portrait, a face more familiar to her than any other, Su Qingyu's chubby little hand tightened into a fierce fist. With a single strike, she slammed her in that very instant, a blade of sword aura condensed out of thin air. This is dire. An Immortal Emperor cannot be insulted. This sudden turn of events caused Su Qingyu's heart to constrict. If this sword aura were to strike her, she would either perish or suffer grievous injury. In the heavens, auspicious clouds gathered, and mystical golden talismans formed a colossal dome. A sword aura, manifesting as a giant blade, pointed formidably at Su Qingyue, who lay within my embrace. Scram, you are merely a remnant of an Immortal Emperor's sword aura, yet you dare point yourself at my daughter? As the words fell, the world instantly returned to silence, and a shocking realization flashed through Su Qingyue's mind. This supposed father of mine is likely no ordinary character. That sword aura just now, although not possessing overwhelming force, was a heavenly tribulation summoned by an Immortal Emperor. Yet he managed to disperse the heavenly tribulation with nothing but a single word. I gently stroked her head and said with a tender smile, "Be good, the ominous clouds have dispersed. Do not be afraid." Time passed in the blink of an eye, and the days spent in the tranquil mountains were peaceful and serene. The two of us lived our lives as if hidden away in an earthly paradise, while the world outside was far from peaceful. The Empress of the Qingyu Imperial Dynasty, Su Roksho, aggressively campaigned against the 3 great imperial dynasties, igniting the flames of war in all directions. In a mere 2 years, the 3 great imperial dynasties were annihilated. The aftermath of the war would require long years of restoration, creating a stark contrast with the life I lived in our secluded sanctuary. 3 years passed in the snap of a finger. I was standing in the courtyard, while beside me a bound fire serpent trembled, watching as I ignited the fire to boil oil with unwavering focus. It was clearly terrified. Today was my daughter's 4th birthday, and also the day for the awakening of her physique. Host, may I ask if you intend to boil your daughter? Scram, you ignorant wretch, I am decocting the medicinal broth necessary for my daughter to awaken her physique. This contains the pure essence blood of divine beasts, which took me no small amount of effort to acquire. Su Qingyue stepped out of her room after finishing her cultivation, only to see a man of peerless handsomeness fussing over a large cauldron. Father, what are you doing? It is nothing. Is it not your birthday today? I am preparing some soup for you. What family uses such a massive cauldron to cook soup? Is he perhaps trying to stew me? Of course, she only dared to keep these thoughts to herself. Regardless of anything else, the fact that I am her father is a certainty set in stone. Although she hasn't seen me take action over these years, spending every day doing nothing but sleeping, she still harbors reservations and does not dare to act recklessly. Today is the day of her physical awakening. In her past life, she knew full well that a formidable constitution lay dormant within her body. But the materials required for this awakening were certainly not things she could obtain on her own. To return to the upper realm and exact her revenge, she must awaken this constitution. At this moment, several surges of potent energy erupted from the iron cauldron, forcing Su Qingyu to stagger back a few paces, nearly collapsing. It was the aura of the heavenly demon phoenix, a phantom image of the creature manifested above the cauldron, its presence truly overwhelming. This is the blood essence of the heavenly demon phoenix clan. How could it possibly appear in the lower realm? That clan is notoriously protective. Even in death, they would incinerate their own blood essence to prevent it from being seized. Every expert of the Heavenly Demon Phoenix clan possesses extraordinary strength, the weakest being at the Immortal King realm, yet the aura radiating from the phantom before her far surpassed that of an Immortal King. Could it be that my father is an Immortal Emperor? She dared not contemplate further. Seeing my daughter frightened, I quickly set down the ladle and stepped to her side. The creature you just saw is known as the Heavenly Demon Phoenix. Don't be afraid, my child. This is merely a drop of its blood essence. Fearing that my daughter might be too terrified to enter the cauldron, I spoke up to console her. Having said that, I turned and walked toward my rocking chair. You need to shed your robes to enter the cauldron. As a father, it is improper for me to watch. Su Qingyu turned around in an instant, quickly discarding her robes before plunging into the boiling water. It was a matter of life or death, a gamble with no room for hesitation. The moment she entered the cauldron, she realized something was amiss. Blood essence within did not violently assault her meridians. On the contrary, it nourished and protected her in the most gentle and soothing manner. The entire process was devoid of the slightest pain, and the constitution that had been slumbering within her began to awaken at this very moment. In an instant, the heavens shifted. The clear skies for 10,000 miles vanished in a heartbeat. Endless dark clouds gathered, and 10,000 bolts of lightning descended, turning the entire mountain range into a living purgatory. What is happening? The spiritual energy of heaven and earth is converging in one location. Could a divine treasure be descending? The nearby cultivators all noticed the anomaly. From within Su Qingyue's body, a powerful aura was continuously released. This was the hallmark of an innate Tao body on the verge of complete awakening. High above in the sky, 8 phantom figures appeared, their pressure causing the great emperors to break into a cold sweat, paralyzed and unable to move. What on earth is this? Could an immortal king have fallen? Many great emperors lurking in the shadows were suppressed by the sheer momentum of these 8 phantoms. After all, every single phantom was formed from the essence and blood of an immortal emperor. A single drop is already overwhelming, let alone a vast sea of it. Many great emperors, valuing their own lives, chose to flee immediately. After all, the longer one lives, the more one fears death. Yet, some younger great emperors chose to seek riches amidst the danger, revealing themselves one by one as the 8 auras began to wane. At this moment, Su Shuaxue rushed to the scene in a hurry. Her daughter, along with the bastard who had stolen her innocence, were both inside. She had yet to retrieve her daughter, nor had she personally slain the man who defiled her. If any harm were to befall her daughter, she dared not even imagine the consequences. Her figure flickered as she attempted to charge into the mountain first, but those around her would not allow her to have her way so easily. Just as she came within 10 miles of the nameless mountain, 3 figures hovered in the air to block her path. Wait, Empress. These 3 are the elders of the northern region's Kanghai Lingyuan. All of them possess the strength of a first-stage great emperor. It is rumored that when the 3 of them combine their forces to execute a formation technique, they can even suppress those at the 3rd stage realm. What is the meaning of this? The northern region can also interfere in the affairs of the southern region? Suro let out a cold snort. Following her destruction of 3 great imperial dynasties, the Qingyu imperial dynasty had become the strongest power on the surface of the southern region. She said on the surface because she knew better than anyone that cunning old monsters were hidden everywhere. Empress, you jest. Extraordinary treasures in this world go to those with the fate to claim them. How can you say it belongs to anyone in particular? The eldest, who stood at the lead, smiled and spoke. This man was Yongguan, the great elder of Konghai Lingyuan. Anyone who obstructs me shall die. Get out of my sight or face the wrath of this empress. I have no interest in imperial treasures or spirit artifacts. Once I retrieve my daughter, you may fight over this place as you please. Her words were directed not only at the 3 blocking her, but also at the great emperors hidden in the shadows who dared not reveal themselves. But who would actually believe her? Too lazy for further empty talk, Su Ruoxue's 7th-stage Great Emperor cultivation erupted with a thunderous roar. The 3 men obstructing her path hurriedly channeled their spiritual energy to protect themselves, but upon their first encounter, the Empress struck out with a single palm. One of Yongguan's arms was cleanly severed, and the 2 men beside him were also grievously wounded. Out of respect for the deceased, we thank the Empress for showing mercy. The 3 heroes spoke in unison, clutching their chests and bowing hurriedly before fleeing. They had never imagined that Suruosha was concealing her true cultivation level. They had assumed she would not exceed the 3rd stage. Yet, who could have expected she had already reached the late stage of the Great Emperor realm? However, troubles followed one after another. The Empress is indeed domineering, but as for the treasures of this world, those destined for them shall possess them. It would be best if the Empress stepped back a little. High in the firmament, dozens of auras at the peak of the 3rd stage of the Life Palace realm rose in succession. The man who spoke carried a blood-red heavy sword on his back, and the savage scar on his face was so terrifying that one dared not look directly at him. Seeing who had arrived, Su Ruoxue furrowed her brows. Even the Dongfang family has come, she whispered. To mobilize so many experts at the third stage of the Life Palace, and for even Dongfang Jian to arrive in person, it seems the rumors were not unfounded. Dongfang Jian, at the seventh stage of the Great Emperor realm, the Sword Emperor said, "Your words have merit. Treasures of the world belong to those destined for them. For the Empress to be so overbearing is truly unreasonable." Following Dongfang Jian, forces from all four directions began to emerge from the shadows one by one. Just then the heavens and earth shifted once more, the black clouds gradually dispersed, and a pillar of light erupted from Su Qingyue's body, soaring straight into the nine heavens. Above the firmament, the 8 phantoms of the divine beasts were utterly shattered. Seeing this, my face was filled with doting affection. Along with the notification chime of the system, Su Qingyue's awakening ritual was complete. Host, your daughter has successfully awakened the innate Tao body. Mission accomplished. You have received an Immortal Emperor grade Cultivation Manual, the Great Tao Simplification Record, and the Emperor grade Sword, Huyu. The Great Tao Simplification Record goes without saying. It is naturally for my daughter. Compared to the Cultivation Manual, I was far more interested in this Huyu sword. This was the personal blade of the peerless Immortal Emperor Tu Lu 10,000 years ago. With a single movement of Huyu, one can command 10,000 swords across the world to aid in battle. As I let out a low shout, a long sword as light as a feather fell into my palm. Father, what is this? After the awakening was finished and she had dressed, Su Qingyue ran over immediately. This is a birthday gift from your father, though I cannot give it to you just yet. Having said that, I retrieved 3 cultivation manuals from the system space. You have yet to cultivate a manual. I feel these 3 are perfectly suited for you. Firstly, the Great Tao Simplification Record. Since you possess the innate Tao body, reaching the pinnacle is merely a matter of time. Secondly, the Dantian Tempering Technique. The path of proving the Tao through alchemy is revered by all. A powerful alchemist is a figure worshipped wherever they go. Third, the Cold Moon Immortal Scripture. This is an incredibly domineering cultivation technique. Even I do not know the full extent of its power. Sugyu fell into deep contemplation. In her eyes, each of these manuals surpassed the Immortal King techniques of her previous life. Oh no, could my father truly be an Immortal Emperor? Any one of these items, if placed in the upper realm, would incite a storm of blood and chaos. Eventually, she chose the record of the Great Tao's simplicity. The very moment she made her selection, a peerless figure descended from the heavens, landing right in my courtyard. Upon seeing the intruder, my expression immediately turned to panic. Why has she arrived so soon? It was none other than Su Ruoxue, the Empress of the Qingwu dynasty. After following the others into the mountains, she relied on her memories to find this place. With a flash of her figure, she arrived before Su Qingyue. "Qing'er, are you unharmed?" I was standing to the side, completely ignored by her. Suddenly, Su Ruoxue noticed something unusual about her daughter. Within her azure eyes, a flicker of the eyes of truth-breaking emerged, capable of piercing through the illusory essence of all things in existence. It is said that when cultivated to perfection, one can see through the past and the future. Su Ruoxue retracted her gaze and looked toward me. The anomaly from moments ago was caused by Qing'er. What kind of constitution is it? Is the innate Tao body formidable? It is formidable indeed. She asks what she will, and I answer accordingly. Once the exchange ended, the two of us fell back into silence. I am truly unskilled at conversing with women. Forced by circumstance, I glanced toward my daughter, raising my eyebrows to signal for her to think of a solution. Su Qingyu had no such methods and returned a helpless expression, leaving me to handle it on my own. I was truly at a loss for words, wanting to cry but finding no tears. This little cotton-padded jacket of mine has developed a leak. All my efforts in raising her were in vain. Mother, you and father should talk. Qing'er will take her leave. Su Qingyu did not care at all about whether the jacket was leaking. To slip away is the best strategy. As my daughter departed, I had no choice, my instincts urging me to apologize for the events of that year. I opened my mouth to say it was an unforeseen accident, but before I could finish, the killing intent around Su Ruoxue surged. How dare you speak of it? If it were not for that moment of pity back then, not wanting to implicate a mortal, she would not have had to face 3 opponents alone to protect this bastard. Who would have thought this man was merely feigning weakness to prey on others, causing her to be gravely injured and nearly perish? She had assumed she would lose her life, and that this sly schemer had done that to save her was truly unforgivable. Yet, she could not let their child grow up without a father. At this thought, a flicker of bitterness crossed Su Ruoxue's face. The killing intent within her heart began to wane, and then she spoke in a tone that brooked no refusal. You shall follow me home and become my imperial consort. Her aura as an empress was displayed without reservation, leaving me completely stunned. This is absolutely impossible. I immediately prepared to open my mouth to refuse. But before the words could leave my lips, a cold system notification echoed in my mind. Option 1. Follow your wife home. Reward freedom. Option 2. Refuse to follow your wife home. Punishment, imprisonment for 100,000 years. Option 3. Choose option 1. Reward freedom. System, are you afflicted with some illness? 3 massive question marks instantly appeared in my mind. Helpless, I had no choice but to choose option 3. Seeing my hesitation, Surokshua's brows furrowed. No, I am quite willing, I will go with you. If it is to be imperial consort, then so be it. At the very least, I will no longer have to assist in this dilapidated mountain. After 100 years, I can finally step outside to catch a glimpse of this world. The moment I stepped through the city gates, the scene before me left me completely shaken. This is the Qingyu Imperial Dynasty, beneath which lies a magnificent gargantuan city. The inner walls are where the Imperial Palace is situated. Beneath my feet stands a towering palace complex under strict guard. Its scale is immense, stretching more than 100 miles from the city center outward. Within the palace, hundreds of officials adorned in Qingyu Dynasty regalia stood in solemn formation. Upon seeing Suoks enter, they all bowed in respect. They shouted in unison, "Greetings to the Empress. May the Empress be blessed with longevity equal to the heavens and the earth." Su Roshue held her daughter's hand and walked directly toward the throne. As she sat, she immediately waved her sleeve and commanded, "All officials, rise." Following this, she announced that Su Qingyue beside her was her daughter. After all, back then the Empress had given birth while unmarried. The incident had long since caused an uproar. At this moment, an elderly man with white hair stepped forward, holding his jade tablet. Reporting to the Empress, now that the 3 great imperial dynasties have been vanquished, and our dynasty has unified the southern region, should the Empress not After the old man finished speaking, the assembly echoed his words in unison, imploring the Empress to establish the imperial line. "Do not be hasty, all of you," Suroshue said with an icy demeanor. "Today I shall deal with the remnants of the 3 dynasties. We will deliberate on this matter once court is dismissed." Having said this, she let out a cold huff. Standing outside the hall, I naturally understood her intent. I coughed twice and stepped composedly into the grand palace. In an instant, the gazes of all the officials converged upon me. Is this the imperial consort who stole the purity of their empress? Aside from a handsome face, there seemed to be nothing particularly remarkable about him. The officials within the hall examined me in minute detail, leaving me feeling entirely uneasy. This is the Empress's husband, Bailey Shuhan. Surokshua's introduction was extremely brief, for she herself did not know what to say, having never truly known one another, yet somehow possessing a daughter together. Although the officials were filled with suspicion, cowed by her authority, they still bowed and saluted me. "We, your humble servants, pay respects to the imperial consort." The news of the Qingwu imperial dynasty appointing an imperial consort spread across the southern region in a mere few hours, yet I remained entirely oblivious to the commotion outside. At this moment, I was being led on a tour of the academy by the great General Ningxu. My appearance naturally attracted a multitude of academy disciples to gather and watch. Is this truly the imperial consort? His appearance is indeed handsome. He is even more striking than Tian Wazi on the beauty rankings. But I wonder what his true strength is. Just as everyone was captivated by my appearance, a deafening, thunderous roar tore through the heavens. The sky above the imperial palace transformed abruptly, a massive sword causing the very heavens and earth to tremble, materialized in the firmament, its tip pointing directly at the palace. Immediately thereafter, dozens of figures cloaked in black hovered in the air, their released aura so oppressive that it became difficult for those below to breathe. Su Qingyue hid behind my robes, her hands gripping the hem of my clothing, her small fingers tightening with unconscious force. Seeing this, my gaze turned instantly glacial. Their insolence was boundless. I flicked my sleeve, and the terrifying pressure that had been shrouding the entire area vanished in that very moment. "Empress Chengwu, come out and face your death. We are the remnants of the Yangyu dynasty." The figure of Ningxu suddenly darted outward, and at the same time 2 long dormant auras from within the academy ascended into the sky. "Remnants of the 3 dynasties, how dare you act so brazenly?" 2 streaks of purple light erupted from the academy. I sensed that their auras were weaker than Suruoshue's. I immediately recognized them as the 2 powerful auras I had sensed outside the academy earlier. They were the first elder of the Qingwu Academy, Fang Shiyu, and the second elder, Luo Xing. From their domineering presence, I caught the scent of heavy death. It was as if these men had been dead for thousands of years. In the blink of an eye, above the Qingwu Imperial Palace, a massive black dragon, 100 jang in length, slowly emerged from within the dark clouds. Dozens of dark silhouettes scattered to clear a path. Standing atop the black dragon was the only surviving prince of the 3 great imperial dynasties, the Black Emperor, Zhuju. Seeing the aura of death coiling around the 2 pavilion elders, he let out a frantic, booming laugh. Of the 8 peak-stage Emperor realm experts of the Qingyu dynasty who participated in the siege back then, 6 had already perished. Now the 2 who remained had little time left to live. The fall of the 3 great dynasties was a settled fate. A revival was impossible. As a blood flute resonated, over 3,000 figures converged upon the imperial palace with blinding speed. These were the sleeper agents of the 3 dynasties that Juju had planted within the Qingyu dynasty. Throughout the downfall of the dynasty, he had never once summoned them. This was only because today, these agents were at minimum at the king realm of the three destinies, and most of them had originated from the Qingyu Academy itself. This was the Black Emperor's final trump card for a counterattack. At this moment, a figure of peerless beauty emerged. It was my wife, Su Roksho. Her icy eyes were locked onto Juju, who stood upon the giant dragon. If I had been the crown prince in power all those years ago, perhaps the outcome would have been different. Unfortunately, you have been defeated. I, the Emperor, am the final victor. As these words fell, a chaotic lotus of flame rose behind the Empress, releasing an aura capable of destroying heaven and earth. As her cultivation of the 7th-tier Great Emperor realm erupted with a deafening roar, the temperature around Juju spiked violently. In his hand, a jet-black longsword appeared from nowhere. The blade was steeped in ominous death energy. One strike, should it fall, possessed enough necrotic power to shatter the entire Imperial Lock formation. Father, will Mother be all right? Below, Su Qingyu peeked out, her expression filled with anxious concern. Her mother was fighting high above, but the combat moved with such ferocity that she could not discern who held the upper hand. Rest assured with Father here, I said, gently stroking her hair. I will not let anything happen to your mother. The battle had reached a fever pitch. The two pavilion elders were besieged by dozens of men in black, their movements gradually showing signs of exhaustion. Juju manipulated his sword with 2 fingers, unleashing a relentless barrage of strikes towards Su Roksho, each imbued with thick, suffocating death energy. Haha, Su Roksho, how much longer can you hold out? I, the Emperor, wish to see how many more strikes you can muster with your dwindling lifespan. Su Roksho sensed that with every strike Juju unleashed, his body withered further. Cutting you down is all that is required. In an instant, Juju's withered hand tightened, and that blade of imperial energy manifested into 1,000 sword phantoms. They surrounded Su Roksho in the center, forming a lethal sword formation. Having completed this, Juju propped up his rapidly withering body and roared at Su Roksho. On the day the 3 great imperial dynasties fell, the 2 ancestors sacrificed their lives so that I might cling to a dying breath. My heart was reduced to cold ash. I went to the demon burial cliff to seek death, yet I accidentally obtained the azure purple chi sword, which drains the longevity of others. This sword allowed me to comprehend the laws of death. Although I have only reached the 3rd stage of the Emperor realm, with this sword, even an 8th stage Great Emperor is someone I am capable of battling. Oh Shuo, let us see how you break this. As his voice faded, he collapsed onto the dragon's back. His body withered visibly before the naked eye until he finally passed away in peace. Just as he breathed his last, the firmament was rent asunder. Space twisted, and a figure stood suspended in the void, gazing down upon the living. The massive sword strapped to his back was strikingly conspicuous. Having accepted a commission, I have come to strike this single blow. My apologies. Having said this, he drew the great sword from his back. A sharp sword chi slashed through the firmament. The laws of the sword Dao poured down like a torrential river, striking directly toward the sword formation, trapping Su Roksho. The sword Dao laws. It was the Eastern Sword Emperor, one of the 9 great emperor clans. The Eastern Emperor clan. He once slew 3 great emperors of the same realm with a single strike. One can only imagine the extent of his strength. Upon recognizing the newcomer, everyone present cried out in shock. At this moment, the Empress was focused on breaking the formation and was unable to defend against this external killing blow. If this strike were to land, she would either be dead or severely crippled. And the Eastern Sword Emperor had unleashed a lethal strike from the very start. At the exact moment the sword chi was about to touch the formation, my figure appeared silently above it. My slender frame stood firmly before that incoming sword key. The moment I peered, every eye was drawn to me. The Emperor had taken action. The sword chi attacking Su Roksho vanished like smoke and mist the instant it touched me. You struck a blow because you accepted a commission. Very well, I shall also strike a blow because I have accepted. Many who have crossed paths with me could not help but cry out in shock. The Emperor himself has personally taken action. Who are you exactly? Seeing that I had dispersed his condensed sword energy without the slightest exertion, the Dongfang Sword Emperor felt a surge of terror in his heart. The strike he had just unleashed, while not his full strength, was certainly something that no ordinary great emperor could withstand. Since when did the Qingyu dynasty harbor a figure such as this? I had no patience for idle talk with him. A petty villain who would resort to a sneak attack against my people shall not be spared. With a single thought, a killing blow was manifested. I said it would be 1 strike, and 1 strike it was. Spiritual power surged around my form, as the vast laws of the spirit within my body churned with violent intensity, coiling tightly around the Hu sword in my hand. In an instant, the sound of the blade ringing echoed across the horizon, every note striking directly at the soul. Go, I whispered coldly, raising my hand to strike down toward the Dongfang Sword Emperor. The sword energy, entwined with the laws of the spirit, descended like a sky full of falling stars, consuming him in a heartbeat. His emperor-level physique was shredded and obliterated within the spiritual sword energy. Countless people within the imperial dynasty witnessed this spectacle, their hearts trembling with pure terror. It was the most magnificent strike they had ever beheld in their lives. Countless meteors tore through the firmament. The star-filled sky appeared so vibrant, it felt as though it were within arm's reach. Is this truly their emperor? As the starlight dissipated, the Dongfang Sword Emperor was not yet dead, but his emperor physique was scattered, his sword heart shattered, leaving him a wretched sight. For 3,000 years, he believed that no one in the southern region could rival his mastery of the sword. He had defeated countless sword-wielding prodigies, and even when facing the peerless Sword Emperor from 10,000 years ago, he had walked away with nothing more than a single sword scar. At this moment he stared at me, his face twisted in unadulterated madness. Ha ha ha, I have not been defeated. It is impossible for me to be defeated. His eyes were bloodshot, his demeanor frantic and deranged. The moment you resorted to a sneak attack, your defeat was already sealed. My voice rang out with calm indifference. Retracting the Hu Yu sword, I sent a palm strike backward. The sword formation that had imprisoned Su Ruoxu shattered instantly, revealing her figure once more to the crowd. The moment her gaze fell upon me standing before her, a captivating blush bloomed upon her exquisite face. The Dongfang Sword Emperor refused to concede even in his final moments, and as he fell, this battle finally drew to a close. Yang Ni personally arrived to restore order, and my reputation as the divine monarch quickly spread throughout the lower realms. Everyone knew of it, and the outside world's assessment of my strength reached its peak. It was said that a single strike of mine could slay a great emperor in the late stages of cultivation. In the very instant that the Dongfang Sword Emperor fell, far away in the Dongfang Imperial clan, the jade tablet bearing his soul imprint shattered into pieces. The guardian of the Sword Dao Alliance gazed at the inscription, his face instantly draining of all color. From the depths of the Dongfang Imperial clan, several auras that made one tremble erupted with a thunderous roar. Who has killed my son? It was the clan leader Dongfang Ming. His cultivation at the ninth heaven of the Great Emperor realm soared into the heavens, causing the entire Dongfang realm to quake in terror. Investigate this immediately. I want him denied entry into the cycle of reincarnation forever. Having settled the battlefield, I looked towards Su Duoxue, my tone tinged with reproach. Do not act so rashly next time. Back when the sword formation had trapped her, I had already sent a voice transmission asking if she required my assistance. But this proud empress was not one to easily accept help. She cast a glance at me, a flicker of resentment flashing through her eyes. This man truly understood nothing of romance. Although this battle was won, the Qingyu imperial dynasty had suffered severe losses. I suddenly recalled something. Having slain Dongfang Jian, I now stood against the entire Dongfang imperial clan. How could they simply let this matter go? Thinking of this, I could not help but suffer a headache. I merely wished for a peaceful life with my daughter. News traveled with immense speed, and the moment Dongfang Jian fell, the Dongfang imperial clan's scouts quickly uncovered the truth and reported it to their leader. The three ancestors, all at the ninth heaven of the Great Emperor realm, wore expressions of extreme gloom. Dongfang Jian was the son of the current clan head, reaching the Emperor realm at the tender age of 3,000, and was considered the family's most promising hope to ascend to the immortal realm, the one destined to lead the clan through the immortal path in the future. Now, all those efforts had been washed away into the river of time. Allow me to go and meet this so-called Qingyu divine monarch. The fourth ancestor, Dongfang Quang, declared in a rage. He had attained the Emperor realm through his physical body alone. Once, with a single punch, he struck down a demon emperor of the same cultivation realm. Fourth brother, do not be rash, a weary voice commanded, halting him. The one who spoke was the second ancestor, Dongfang Wenshang, the individual with the greatest strength within the clan, to act recklessly against a mere Qingyu empire. If it were not for the 9 great emperor clans disdaining such empty fame, how could a woman like Su Ruoxu have ever gained the authority to rule the southern region? Dongfang Quang argued loudly. I ask you, if you were to face Jianer, how much chance of victory would you have? Dongfang Shanans enunciated every word with deliberate weight. Dongfang Quang was instantly rendered speechless. That familiar sensation of powerlessness rose within him once more. He had failed to last 10 moves against Dongfang Jian. Yet, that man could fell him with a single strike of his sword. The one who slew Jianer must possess a cultivation at the 9th stage of the Great Emperor realm. Dongfang Wensheng paused momentarily, a chilling glint flashing in his eyes. The day the immortal path opens shall be the day of his death. 10 years of time passed by in leisurely fashion. My affection for Su Ruoxu grew deeper with each passing day, and amidst our long companionship, we welcomed our second daughter into the world. My eldest daughter, Su Qingyue, had entered the Wenxin sword sect and left home to cultivate 2 years prior. At this moment, I was fast asleep in my bedchamber. A small figure, bearing an 8-part resemblance to me, silently crawled onto the edge of the bed. She reached out her tiny hand and pinched my cheek. In a soft, sweet voice, she called out, "Father, wake up quickly and come play with Linger. Let us go find elder sister." Looking at the little girl sprawled across my chest, I let out a helpless sigh. This is my second daughter. Lingxi, only 2.5 years old, is lively, active, and the most mischievous of them all. A few days ago she snuck into the chambers of the Empress Cao Cao. With a puff of fire she scorched the ceremonial robes of some high-ranking official. It caused the man to lose all face, and she was confined to house arrest by her mother for 3 days as a result. Do you wish to be confined by your mother again? I gently ruffled her small head. She opened her eyes wide and pleaded coyly. Her appearance made my heart soften. Yet her sister is currently neither in the sword sect nor in the lower realms. According to the system, Su Qingyu officially entered the Wenxin sword sect to cultivate 2 days ago. Shall father take you to find your sister to play? No, that is certainly out of the question. From behind a voice spoke with a solemn tone that brooked no argument. Seeing the person who had arrived, I smiled happily and said, "Why have you come here?" I was just planning to take Linger to find you. There were many affairs today, so I arrived a bit late. Are you troubled because of the Dongfang family? Hearing this, Su Rokui nodded. Today the Dongfang family sent an emissary again, claiming they want justice for what happened 10 years ago. Hearing that, I was stunned for a moment. Is this even considered a nuisance? Seeing my calm and relaxed demeanor, she cast a helpless glance at me before leaning in close. It is truly comfortable. Ever since she has become increasingly intimate with me, she constantly seeks to be near me, sometimes even neglecting to attend the morning court. It was precisely at this moment that the system, which had been silent for 2.5 years, suddenly appeared, and the familiar voice resonated in my mind once again. Host, long time no see. Chapter 27. Son of Providence. Hasn't this system been updating for 2.5 years? That was fast, wasn't it? Accompanied by the growth of his daughter and the warmth of his wife and child, Mo Ran felt that the 2.5 years had passed in the blink of an eye. System, the father of the final son of Providence in this realm has appeared. The road to the Emperor is about to open. Host, long time no see. You have been living quite a luxurious life, and judging by the description from Shen Qi just now, the experiences of this young man are truly no different from those of the protagonists in the novels I read in my past life. Could it be that I am not the son of Providence of this world? If I am not the protagonist, I think to myself, I am still young. I have a wife and child, and I possess formidable cultivation. I live a life without worries of food or clothing, with no fear of dangerous enemies. If I am not the protagonist, Moran felt a sudden wave of indignation. What is the meaning of this? Leading such a happy and fulfilling life. If not the protagonist, who else could possibly enjoy this? That is correct, host. You are not wrong. That individual is indeed the final son of Providence of this world. Filled with doubt and confusion, Moran asked in his heart, System, what exactly am I? Confronted with this question, the system's processing core faltered, unable to grasp Moran's true intent. Yet it responded honestly. Host, what exactly are you implying? Moran suppressed the urge to dismantle the system entirely, drew a deep breath and continued, I am asking, since this world already possesses its own child of destiny, what does that make me? A villain? A villain, indeed. At the mere thought, Moran felt a chill run down his spine. If he were truly a villain, what would become of his wife and child? In the countless novels he consumed before transmigrating, the lives of those labeled villains were rarely prosperous. He could not fathom where things had gone wrong. He had done nothing of note all these years, so how had he become a villain? Hearing this, the system could not contain itself, a large question mark manifesting above its interface. What exactly is stored inside this host's mind? Suppressing the urge to berate him, explained, Host, there is no need for such wild conjecture. You are not a villain, nor are you a child of destiny. A mere child of destiny is nothing but a trifle. The child of destiny is merely a heaven-gifted prodigy born into this world to pave the path to the Emperor's throne. You do not belong to this world, therefore you are an anomaly. Regardless of where you stand, you are peerless. Oh, upon hearing this, Moran finally exhaled in relief. After all, if he truly were a villain, he would, without hesitation, seek out this so-called child of destiny and eliminate him to prevent any future calamity. In the novels of his past life, the children of destiny were like weeds that refused to die, infuriatingly difficult to handle, possessing endless arrays of bizarre and rare encounters. Although he possessed a system, the fortune of a child of destiny could not be underestimated. What if they encountered an opportunity that rivaled his system? Or what if they too were a transmigrator harboring their own system? The prospect of facing such endless troubles, had he truly been a villain, was daunting. It made his scalp tingle, compelling him to strike first and eliminate the threat once and for all. He had no desire for his current life to be disturbed. So, what have you been updating for the past 2.5 years? Nothing, I was simply engaged in a battle. What was that? So a system update is nothing more than a clash between different systems. The victor simply claims greater authority and permissions. 6 Moran rolled a 6. After all, a system update is essentially a battle against another system. This was the first time he had seen such a thing, despite having read countless novels. So this is what a system update truly entails. No wonder new shops or features emerge after every update. Having heard this, Moran understood a profound truth. He was not the only one. There are vast worlds filled with others who possess systems just like him. He wondered if he would ever cross paths with another system bearer in the future, and what a scene that would be. If the system could read Mo Ran's thoughts, it would surely jump out and strike him. I am laboring through these battles, so you can encounter those trash-tier systems? Does that mean I have been working for free for 2.5 years? System, do you have any information on the Child of Destiny? Having heard so much from Shenqi earlier, and noting that she never once mentioned the name of this Child of Destiny, Mo Ran assumed she was unaware, prompting him to ask the question himself. The system did not reply directly, but instead presented it a detailed introductory page. The Child of Destiny, a reincarnated sword cultivator, possessed of supreme luck, yet plagued by a turbulent fate. In his youth, a failed quest for medicine resulted in his meridians being shattered and his cultivation lost, at which point he awakened his hidden memories. He is currently residing in a cave dwelling within the Million Great Mountains, attempting to restore his crippled meridians. The Million Great Mountains, is that not their destination for today? Is it truly such a coincidence? Before this, for Linger's birthday, the child made a wish to Shenqiqi, expressing her desire to raise a spirit beast. Perhaps she had seen one elsewhere, and she longed to possess one of her own. A simple, small request. Shenqiqi had readily agreed. However, she had already brought every spirit beast available within the Qingwu dynasty, and those that could not be presented were simply unsightly, and Linger would not care for them. However, Ling Ni was extremely picky. Not a single one caught her eye. Afterward, Mo Ran suggested that if they had some spare time, they should take her to the Baiwan Great Mountains to search, as that was where spirit beasts were most abundant. Naturally, there were also many demon beasts. Spirit beasts and demon beasts coexist in a symbiotic relationship. Demon beasts rely on the unique physical constitutions of spirit beasts to cultivate. In turn, weaker spirit beasts rely on the protection of powerful demon beasts to avoid falling into the hands of humans. This is a pact as well as a rule of survival, with both parties bound by a covenant. Although it is said that they do not require spirit beasts, demon beasts can also cultivate on their own. However, spirit beasts are a large clan, and typically, the pacts formed with them are with an entire race of demon beasts. Unlike those solitary demon beasts, they have kin and clansmen, much like human families. This ritual of forming a covenant between spirit beasts and demon beasts is extremely prevalent in the Baiwan Great Mountains. This is because the variety of demon beast races in the Baiwan Great Mountains is vast, far exceeding anywhere else. Due to the abundance of spirit beasts, the spiritual energy in the Baiwan Great Mountains is several times more concentrated than elsewhere. It can be considered a holy land for cultivation. However, the dangers also increase several-fold simultaneously. After all, the denser the spiritual energy, the stronger the demon beasts that are birthed. Therefore, even though it is a cultivation holy land, those who usually venture into the Baiwan Great Mountains are mostly bellicose cultivators, along with mercenary guilds that specialize in capturing spirit beasts for trade. The Abandoned Demon Clan. Not all spirit beasts can form a covenant with demon beasts. Much like the spirit swords in the hands of the human race, which have varying qualities, it all depends on whether they are compatible with one another. Compared to spirit swords, the grading of spirit beasts is simpler, consisting of only 4 levels, level 1 being the highest and level 4 being the lowest. Furthermore, spirit beasts can provide spiritual energy to demon beasts, causing their cultivation speed to increase exponentially. Similarly, this type of enhancement can be granted to humans, but it is far less effective compared to its effect on demon beasts. Usually, they are kept merely for their appearance, treated as a type of pet. After all, there are many treasures that provide spiritual energy to aid human cultivation. One does not necessarily have to rely on a spirit beast. The destination of this journey is the same as that of the Child of Destiny. It is uncertain whether they will cross paths. To be honest, he also wanted to witness for himself what this so-called reborn individual was like, as he had never encountered one before. You might ask, does Shenqiqi not count? She does, of course she counts, but although Mo Ran possesses the Eye of Truth, he refuses to use it on his own daughter. Because his daughter values her privacy, and besides, despite having transmigrated for a long time, yet, deep in his heart he remained a man of integrity. When it came to matters infringing upon the privacy of others, he would never stoop to such actions. Consequently, he had never utilized this ability on any woman or his own wife. Ordinarily, he would not employ this cheat indiscriminately. Just as he was lost in contemplation, a pair of jade-like hands suddenly reached out and grasped his, the movement practiced and fluid, and Chi-Chi, holding a teary-eyed Linger in one arm, took his hand with the other and whispered into his ear, "Let us depart." Meanwhile, the little bundle of flesh in Shenqiqi's arms glared fiercely at Mo Ran, refusing to acknowledge him, seemingly reproaching him for watching its mother bully it without intervening. Facing this, Mo Ran could only shrug his shoulders helplessly, indicating that his hands were tied. This journey may bring forth some unnecessary troubles. You should wear a bit more. With that, he took the white cloak draped over his own shoulders and wrapped it around Shenqiqi. He then pressed two fingers together, a glimmer of starlight flickering at his fingertips. Thunder roared across the heavens, as two winged steeds, wreathed in dark violet lightning, surged forth, pulling a white jade carriage through the void. Upon the white jade carriage, the emblem of the Qingyu dynasty was strikingly prominent. The faint white radiance emitted by the crest was enough to strike terror into the hearts of any observer. This was the third year since Moran had ascended to the position of emperor. The system granted him new trinkets almost every year, yet most of them had been claimed by his two daughters. The eldest daughter naturally would not take them, but the problem lay with the younger one. Almost every time she snuck off to find Chinger, she would bestow upon the child a pile of treasures scavenged from Moran. Regarding this, Moran offered no objections. After all, they were merely defensive artifacts, and he cared little for them. The white jade carriage slowly made its way toward Moran, finally coming to a halt beside them. He lifted the jade curtain to let the two women board, then followed them inside. In the carriage, Linger, who had been silent for some time, suddenly shouted urgently, "Let little sister Xiao Xiao come up too." Huh? Seeing the little girl suddenly cry out, Moran and Shenqiqi both looked over in confusion. What was this little one planning now? Moran naturally realized that the Xiao Xiao the child spoke of was the maid Shenqiqi had arranged to attend to her daily needs. Seeing the bewildered gazes cast by Moran and Shenqiqi, the little one hurriedly explained, "Doesn't little sister Xiao Xiao's home lie within the 100,000 Great Mountains?" The 100,000 Great Mountains. Yes. Shenqiqi pondered for a moment, as if remembering something, and nodded. Then, let us bring her along. Now that she mentioned it, Xiao Xiao was indeed a member of the demon race, from the 100,000 Great Mountains. She was once cast out of the demon clan for being overly mischievous, having consumed the shape-shifting herb intended for the young master of the tribe. As a result of this transgression, she was banished from their ranks. It was during that year that I happened to pass by and found her on the verge of death, leading me to rescue her and bring her back. Truth be told, she has not left the imperial dynasty for several hundred years. Seeing that Moran remained perplexed, she hurriedly offered an explanation. Linger knows of these matters because Xiao Xiao has often taken care of her daily needs, and in doing so, they have often shared many trivial stories with one another. While Moran was unaware of these minor details, he could still sense the faint aura of the demon clan radiating from her. However, he could not detect any malicious intent toward Linger. Furthermore, since she had been arranged by Shenqiqi, he saw no reason to investigate further. After all, everyone is entitled to their own secrets. As long as she harbored no ill will toward Linger, Moran would not interfere. Upon hearing the explanation, Moran gave a slight nod. After all, with his daughter having already spoken, how could he refuse? Having someone to handle the carriage was not such a bad idea. Seeing that both Moran and Shenqiqi had given their consent, Lingxi hurriedly climbed down from Shenxi's lap, lifted the jade curtain, poked her head out, and called out, "Sister Xiao Xiao, hurry over here." Just then, a young maiden dressed in the garb of a servant girl, possessing a delicate and graceful appearance, slowly trotted over from the side. Not long after, she arrived beside the jade carriage and addressed those within, Linger, Moran, and Shenqiqi, saying, "Your servant Xiao Xiao pays respects to the Empress and the Emperor." Afterward, she glanced at Linger, who was still peering out, and said with a smile, "Greetings, Princess Linger." She felt a deep sense of gratitude toward Linger. Although she had been exiled from the demon clan for centuries, she remained at heart one of their own. She had been too reckless and immature back then, and, having committed a grave error that caused the young master of her clan to fail his shapeshifting, she had always sought an opportunity to apologize for the events of that year. To make amends, she had remained in the Qingwu imperial dynasty for hundreds of years, living a life of extreme frugality, until finally, through her own efforts, she was able to exchange her savings for an emperor pill. A single emperor pill was sufficient to grant the demon clan another great emperor realm powerhouse. This specific emperor pill had been bestowed upon her by Shenqiqi. This was first because the war 10 years prior had caused the Qingwu imperial dynasty to suffer grievous losses, and with many great emperor realm powerhouses having perished, there was a dire need for new ones to maintain order. Yet one could not simply distribute emperor pills to just anyone. It just so happened that Xiao Xiao had remained by the constant and unwavering. She never once harbored a second heart. Her cultivation base had just reached the pinnacle of the third stage of the Life Palace realm. She was but a single turning point away from the Great Emperor realm. Thus Shenqi bestowed a Great Emperor pill upon her. Yet in the time that followed, she could not bring herself to consume the pill, though she dared not betray the expectations of the Empress who had granted it to her. Consequently, she went into seclusion for 2 years, relying solely on her own strength to forcibly break through that bottleneck. She successfully ascended to the Great Emperor realm. By achieving this breakthrough, she had lived up to the expectations of Shenqiqi. However, she still wished to return the Great Emperor pill in the end. After all, she had already broken through to the Great Emperor realm now. The pill remained unused. Although she sought to atone for her hesitation, She desired even less to deceive the Empress, so she laid bare all her thoughts and actions to Shen Qiqi. Shen Qiqi naturally understood her intentions. She did not say much, offering only a single sentence. The medicinal pill was bestowed upon you. Whether you use it or not is entirely your own choice. While her original intention in bestowing the Great Emperor pill was to ensure the Qingyu dynasty possessed a few more great emperors, it was simultaneously a test to see if those in her inner circle harbored ulterior motives. Now that the result was clear, the pill served no further purpose, so it was better to go with the flow and offer a gesture of goodwill. There is no need for further ceremony. If you delay any longer, it will be too late. Go now. Understood. Having said this, the Empress reached out one hand and pulled back Linger, who had been peeking outside with bare feet. Embracing the child, she said, "The weather is cold. Let mother hold you." Hearing this, Xiao Xiao understood the intent and naturally took her place at the carriage reins. Seeing her trace a hand seal, a flash of demonic light shimmered, and the white jade horses pulling the carriage raced toward the million great mountains. Furthermore, the path of the carriage was accompanied by the sound of thunder tearing through the wind. Dominating in all directions, the sky echoed with a deafening roar like rolling thunder. This majestic aura alone was enough to strike terror into the hearts of countless people on the ground below. It is rumored to be the Emperor's carriage. The Emperor is taking Princess Linger out for a journey. It is not just the Emperor. The Empress is also accompanying them. Wow, this is the direction of the million great mountains. Could they be seeking a spirit beast for Princess Linger? Possessing some influence, those noble figures who had attended Princess Linger's birthday banquet watched the trajectory of the carriage. Recalling the scene from years past where the Empress brought forth all the spirit beasts for Linger to choose from, and how Linger had turned her nose up at them, they began to speculate. Upon hearing this, the people of the Qingyu dynasty erupted into a clamor, and whispers of envy arose from all sides. Press and the Emperor have personally mobilized to hunt for a spirit beast for Princess Linger. Such treatment is truly beyond compare. Even the eldest princess has never received such preferential treatment, has she? Shen Qingqing. Back when I first awakened my constitution, my father descended from the upper realm to bring me the essence blood of a divine beast. It was infinitely superior to that spirit beast. What did you just say? Naturally, these are matters for another time. At this moment, Shen Qingqing was wandering through the secret realm with her naive maid, relying on the unique talents of little Yan. By now, she had already gathered a massive pile of spirit fruits. Yet what she found strange was that she had not encountered a single person throughout her entire journey, nor had she seen those two Xingfang, whom she had met earlier. It was as if they had simply evaporated into thin air. Even though her divine sense had been doubled, thanks to the treasure she had scavenged from Moran's belongings, she could not detect a single trace of anyone's aura. And so, throughout her journey, she had spent almost all her time picking fruits with little Yan, eating fruits and unearthing spirit herbs. How dreadfully boring. Shen Qingqing looked across the vast, boundless secret realm and sighed. She had traveled this entire way without even catching a glimpse of a shadow. Ever since Junrian departed, she had been leading little Yan in the direction where Xingfang and the other had gone, but after traveling for several days, she hadn't seen a single soul. It was as if they had vanished from the world. It was utterly bizarre. Wow, princess, look quickly. Just then, little Yan beside Shen Qingqing suddenly exclaimed in surprise, her finger pointing toward a strange beam of light shooting into the sky in the distance. The scene was breathtakingly beautiful. Shen Qingqing followed the direction of the cry, and the moment she set eyes upon that pillar of light, her pupils dilated in sheer terror as she stammered, This is the soul-gathering pillar. Chapter 29, tomorrow. Watching the white light soar into the heavens in the distance, a look of profound shock appeared on Shen Qingqing's face. Encircling the white radiance were countless divine souls, and these divine souls possessed no consciousness at all, relying entirely on the gravitational pull emitted by the pillar of light, leading them to drift weightlessly around it. The soul-gathering pillar, as its name suggests, is a strange phenomenon formed by the convergence of spirits that have perished from all directions. This phenomenon is extremely common in the upper realm. Yet what truly terrified her was not the formation of the soul-gathering pillar itself, but rather, why such a structure would appear in this location. To her knowledge, every time a soul-gathering pillar forms, it requires a soul-gathering bead as a conduit, to condense the deceased spirits, then suppress them for thousands upon thousands of years, slowly eroding the lingering consciousness of the original souls, thereby forming a form of essence that is relatively pure, which one can then utilize to cultivate and strengthen their own divine soul. Moreover, this method utilizing the soul-gathering bead, this soul-gathering suppression of 10,000 spirits, is typically used in the upper realm to suppress malevolent entities. And the appearance of the soul-gathering bead implies that it has suppressed these spirits for an exceptionally long duration, having eradicated 80 to 90% of their original consciousness. The unconscious spirits floating around the pillar of light will gradually condense and solidify into a cluster of essence, at which point this essence becomes available for absorption. However, this method is ruthless. While it offers benefits, it also carries inherent dangers. Specifically, those with an unstable will are easily ensnared by the malevolence lingering within the essence. The price to pay for being ensnared is to have one's body possessed by these malevolent forces. Although the consciousness of these malevolent entities has been largely suppressed and erased by the soul-gathering bead, once an individual is ensnared and loses their true self, they become a monstrous creature. Neither human nor demon, their actions lack any rhyme or reason. Reflecting on this, she suddenly understood the cause behind the bizarre behavior of the blood-testing sword sect disciples, previously described by Jun Ruyan. Having finished her thought, she hurriedly called out to Xiao Yaan and pulled her toward the pillar of light, saying, "We must go quickly." "Ah, what are we going there for?" "To accomplish something of great importance." Although it is said that the chaotic, lingering consciousness within this essence can bewitch the heart, in the end, the dead are merely the dead. Xing would naturally not overlook these essences, for she is an immortal king reincarnated, and she is in desperate need of a massive quantity of resources that can strengthen the soul in order to restore her own. There's no doubt that these are the optimal choice, and thus, it was not only Qing who witnessed this strange spectacle. The disciples of the 5 great sword sects, all present within the same secret realm, bore witness to it as well. Furthermore, they all concluded that a rare treasure had manifested in the world, and they all surged toward the pillar of light. Meanwhile, deep within a cave dwelling in the Million Great Mountains, a young man sat cross-legged upon the ground. His eyes were tightly shut, his hands formed into a meditative seal, and surrounding him 6 medicinal herbs radiating a violet glow were being absorbed into his body. The ravaged meridians within him were recovering at an astonishing speed. This youth was Lin Tian, the final son of Providence in this realm. A long time passed, until the medicinal potency of the 6 herbs had been almost entirely consumed. Lin Tian's pitch-black eyes slowly opened, and he exhaled a breath of turbid air. Clenching his fists and feeling that his meridians had fully healed, he murmured, "I never expected to be reborn." However, the trajectory of this lifetime seemed to deviate slightly from the memories of his past life. He was named Lin Tian, a genius of the collateral branch of the Lin clan. In his youth, he had already displayed startling cultivation talent, single-handedly suppressing the first holy son of the Lin clan. Yet, because he belonged to a collateral branch, there was no place for him among the 10 great holy sons. His mother suffered from a grave illness that no ordinary elixir could cure. Only the supreme great elixirs, which only a holy son could obtain, would suffice. Thus, he abandoned all dignity to plead for help. For his mother's sake, he endured humiliation, and for her sake, he cast aside all vanity. But in the end, his mother could not withstand the torment of her illness and passed away with tears in her eyes. Even at that moment, he had still been waiting, still hoping that the so-called holy son of the Lin clan would bring the life-saving elixir. Thinking of this, Lin Tian slammed his fists violently into the ground, tormented by why he had not sought a solution himself. If only he had not been content to wait from the beginning, if only he had not placed all his hope upon that so-called holy son. Perhaps the outcome might have been different? Why? 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 Why could he not have awakened his memories just a little sooner? Why could it not have been earlier? Even if it had been just a moment sooner, his mother would not have died. With this thought, his gaze turned chillingly cold. Lin family Lin Wudao, in my past life, it was because of the Emperor's path that I allowed your Lin family to escape unscathed. In this life, I shall ensure that both the Lin family and you, Lin Wudao, meet your demise. His eyes grew incredibly firm. In his previous life, it took him a mere 100 years to ascend to the position of Great Emperor. Now that he has been reborn, he only needs to seize the time to reclaim all the legacies that belonged to him in his past life. Within 3 years at most, he will once again become a Great Emperor. That time comes, he will surely make the Lin family pay a heavy price for their actions. But for now, repairing his meridians and reshaping his foundation is the first step. Next, he must set out to recover the second item that belongs to him. However, before that, he needs to carefully assess the current situation of this life. In his past life, he was not saved by anyone. Instead, he was beaten to the brink of death by the servants of the Lin family, who then dragged him to the 100,000 Great Mountains and threw him off a bottomless cliff. By sheer luck, he was caught by tree branches and ultimately landed outside this very cave dwelling. Relying on the last vestiges of his will to survive, he crawled into the cave and obtained the legacy of the Changsheng Great Emperor hidden within, from which he practiced the Changsheng art, embarked on the path to becoming a great emperor, crossed the emperor's path to the upper realm, and began his legendary life, ultimately achieving the rank of Supreme Immortal King. Yet now he has been saved by people from the Qingyu Imperial Dynasty. After all, in his memories, the Qingyu Imperial Dynasty was destroyed 10 years ago. That year, the remnants of the Beizhou faction exhausted all their strength to besiege the Empress of the Qingyu imperial dynasty, alongside the only surviving prince. Member of the Dongfeng family, Dongfeng Jian, struck a single blow. The Empress perished, and the Qingyu imperial dynasty ceased to exist. Furthermore, it was in that year, when the Qingyu imperial dynasty fell, that the 9 great imperial clans completely seized control of the southern region, becoming the true hegemons of the territory. But why does the Qingyu imperial dynasty still exist in this life? Is this a ripple effect caused by his rebirth? Thinks. He could not help but feel troubled, wondering if the survival of the Qingyu imperial dynasty would hinder his plans. But upon second thought, he is a man reborn. What could a mere Qingyu imperial dynasty possibly do to him? As he pondered this, a cold smile tugged at the corner of his lips. The most pressing matter now is to restore his strength, and with that he rose to his feet and began walking toward the exit of the cave dwelling. It is time to go and claim the second item that belongs to him. Whether it be an anomaly or a change in fate, it matters not. As one reborn who has seized every heavenly opportunity, what could he possibly fear? Chapter 30. The White Crane Clan. It took roughly 2 hours for Mo Ran's group to arrive at the entrance of the Million Great Mountains. Wherever the royal arrow passed, a sound like rolling thunder followed in its wake. When the royal arrow reached the sky above the entrance to the Million Great Mountains, the thunderous sound ceased accordingly. Look quickly, what is that? It is truly imposing. Which faction does this royal arrow belong to? The Qingyu dynasty possesses such grandeur. Could it be that the reigning empress is traveling? The royal arrow had not been stationary for long. When everyone below recognized the crest of the Qingyu dynasty emblazoned upon the royal arrow, and they cried out in succession, "Empress, Lord Emperor, we've arrived at the outskirts of the Million Great Mountains." Gazing at the familiar Million Great Mountains before her, the joy in Xiao Xiao's eyes was evident. She had returned to her former home. Reflecting on this, a flicker of sorrow crossed her heart. If she had not been so playful and ruined the young master's coming-of-age ceremony back then, she would never have been exiled from the clan. Yet, all of these events were consequences of her own actions. She had sown the wind, and was now reaping the whirlwind. There was no one else to blame. Now, all she could do was seek atonement, never daring to hope for a return to the clan. At this moment, she no longer belonged to the Demon Clan. From the very instant she was exiled, the name Demon Clan held no further significance for her. Now she belonged to Qingyu. Had the Empress not passed by and saved her at that time, she would likely have already departed for the afterlife. Wonderful. Before Shenqi could speak, a youthful, joyous voice could not help but ring out. Could see the little ball of flesh resting on Shen Qi's lap struggle, free from its restraints within the royal arrow, causing Zhen Chen to trot outside. Gazing at the breathtaking scenery outside, the child's large eyes darted about in curiosity. This was the first time the little one had ever come to the Million Great Mountains. Ling Shi had yearned immensely for the Million Great Mountains as described by the elders, wanting to reach the heavens, yet she was far too small, unable to travel alone, and completely ignorant of the path. Ling Shi could only dream of it, never daring, because Shenqi did not like to see the child leave her side. And because there were many administrative affairs to attend to, Shenqi was quite occupied and had no spare time to take the child out. Although Moran often took the child out to play, the places they visited were always quiet areas, free from any disturbance. While the scenery was beautiful, filled with many lovely ladies who could fly in stunning vistas, the child enjoyed it. Yet she was not truly happy. Thus, the destination this time was a bit different, and it looked quite lively. Thinking of this, Ling Shi suddenly recalled the words Xiao Xiao had spoken to her before, as well as the little stories she used to tell her. And so, in her excitement, she gripped her hand, asking, "Big Sister Xiao Xiao, does your home have many cute spirit beasts?" Taken aback by such a sudden question, Xiao Xiao paused for a moment. She immediately recalled how in the past, she used to tell the child stories about her mischievous childhood of bullying spirit beasts just to coax her to sleep, and so she smiled and said, "It is true that there are many, but it is no longer my home. My home is now Qingwu and I belong to you. I am the maidservant who belongs to you." She had intended to say this, but seeing the look of anticipation in the little girl's eyes, she swallowed her words, preparing to say something else instead. Before she could speak, she heard Shenqi say through the voice transmission, "Considering the contracted spirit beasts of the White Crane clan, Linger will surely like them. After all, she had seen some that were very small before." Relying on her understanding of her daughter, she thought for a moment, glanced at Mo Ran, and asked, "We shall go to the White Crane clan." The White Crane clan resides within the Million Great Mountains, a clan ranked quite highly among the tens of thousands of demon tribes, boasting 3 great Emperor realm experts within their ranks, with their patriarch being a powerhouse at the 7th layer of the great Emperor realm. Mo Ran pondered for a moment, discerned Shenqi's intention, and replied with a gentle smile, "Let us go. After all, Xiao Xiao is currently a member of the Qingwu imperial dynasty, and even though she belonged to the White Crane clan in the past, She had already been expelled and no longer held any ties to them. Now she wished to return to atone for the ignorance of her youth and to resolve her inner conflict. Therefore, this matter was naturally not a problem. However, the White Crane clan might not necessarily forgive her, so traveling there alone would certainly not be safe. Shenqiqi was also concerned about this point, which is why she decided to accompany her back. Seeing Moran nod, Shenqiqi did not delay. After giving a few instructions, she had Xiao Xiao continue steering their course toward the White Crane clan. Meanwhile, at the White Crane clan, they were currently hosting several guests who had arrived from afar. Patriarch Hishan, I wonder what you think of this Saint Sun's proposal? The Great Hall. A young man sat upon a chair, elegantly and calmly sipping freshly brewed tea, acting as if this matter was already settled in his favor. I believe it is impossible. Hishan let out a cold snort, speaking frigidly toward the young man sipping tea below. The youth was named Shangguan Qingfeng, hailing from the Kanglan sacred land of the eastern region, and he held the title of Saint Sun. The Kanglan sacred land is the absolute hegemon of the eastern region. Compared to the complex situation of the southern region, the eastern region appears far more straightforward. There is only one transcendent power, and that is the Kanglan sacred land. Therefore, in the eastern region, when the Kanglan sacred land speaks, their word is absolute law. The young man's objective in coming here was simple. He intended to borrow the forbidden grounds of the White Crane clan for a short time. Within the forbidden grounds of the White Crane clan lies a spirit pool, rumored to possess the power to raise the dead and restore flesh to bones. Naturally, these were merely exaggerated rumors from the outside world. The claim was rather hyperbolic, intended only to illustrate that this spirit pool possessed an immense capacity for healing severe wounds. Hearing Hishan's refusal, the young man's tea-sipping motion abruptly ceased. He gently placed the item in his hand onto the table, his expression turning somewhat somber. Patriarch Hishan, I hope you will reconsider the matter of the spirit pool. This Saint Sun is truly curious about it. I have thought about it, and I have thought very carefully. Having said that, Hishan gave him a long contemplative look, and continued, I show you respect only because you are the Saint Sun of the Kanglan's sacred land, and I give your sacred master a measure of face. But you are truly shameless. You know well that the spirit pool is our forbidden ground. Even for me, entering it is not a trivial matter. Pausing here, he heard Shangguan Qingfeng grit his teeth and say, 5,000 Emperor crystals, that is my offer. Hishan gave a cold laugh. This boy truly thinks he is still in the Kanglan sacred land. Emperor crystals are a common currency condensed by great Emperor realm powerhouses. The energy contained within them is exceptionally pure, capable of assisting one in their cultivation. Hishan looked at him, speechless. Is this a matter of money? Forbidden ground, forbidden ground. What does forbidden even mean? Do you not understand the meaning of no entry? Are you playing the fool? He waved his hand, signaling to escort him out, and two clansmen of the White Crane clan slowly walked in through the great hall doors. He walked to the side of Shangguan Qingfeng and spoke. Saint Sun Shangguan, please. Shangguan Qingfeng paid him no mind. He moved his lips, addressing Shan once more. 10,000 Emperor stars, silent as the grave. The moment he uttered these words, the surroundings fell into an instant silence, so profound that even the sound of his own breathing could be heard clearly. Are you attempting to insult me? Chapter 31. Hishan watched with curious eyes the young man who dared to bring out such a thing as Emperor stars to insult him. His expression instantly turned chillingly cold, and the surrounding temperature dropped by several degrees. The reason this Saint Sun had come to request the use of the spirit pool was rather frivolous. He simply wished to see what this legendary spirit pool, said to be able to bring the dead back to life and regrow flesh on bones, truly looked like. After all, it was said even the dead could be restored. He also wanted to see it for himself, even if the effects were not as miraculous as the rumors claimed. Because the visitor hailed from the Kanglan sacred ground, Hishan had treated him with courtesy and polite words. After all, it was the Kanglan sacred ground, which was infinitely more powerful than his White Crane clan, so giving him a measure of respect was only proper. But this young man mistook the White Crane clan's patience for fear of his Kanglan sacred ground, acting with arrogance and bravado throughout his arrival, completely ignorant of the ways of the world, and even daring to insult him with Emperor stars. Did he truly look like a man who lacked such trivial things? Furthermore, these items were meant for the cultivation of the human race. What use did they have for a member of the demon race like him? Was there something wrong with this boy's brain? Did he really think this place was his Kanglan sacred ground in the eastern region? Did he truly believe that, because the Kanglan sacred ground holds absolute sway over the eastern region, it could reach its hand all the way into the southern region? He was truly courting death. Hearing this, Shangguan Qingfeng was taken aback by Hishan's sudden rage. He had assumed his initial offer was insufficient, and thus decided to increase the price. For in the eastern region, there was nothing he could not. However, this place was ultimately not his eastern region, not the eastern region belonging to his Kanglan sacred land, but the southern region. Above there is the Qingyu imperial dynasty, and below the 9 great imperial clans. Not to mention the 100 million great mountains standing towering in the midst of it all, nor the peerless sword immortal atop the divine sword mountain and the Qingcheng mountain. He had clearly underestimated the complexities of the southern region. Finally, he spoke once more. "Get out of my sight." Just as he was about to utter the word out, a voice came rushing from outside the door, suddenly exclaiming, "Clan leader, the Empress of the Qingyu imperial dynasty has arrived at our clan in person, requesting an audience." Upon hearing this, that word out seemed to catch in his throat, choking him, leaving him in extreme discomfort. How could it be that just as he thought of the Qingyu imperial dynasty, the Empress herself has graced them with her presence? Could it be that she is also here? For thinking this far, his expression turned ghastly pale, and he let out a long, heavy sigh. He turned toward Shangguan Qingfeng, who stood there like a statue, and said, "Leave at once." Seeing He-Shan's fury, Shangguan Qingfeng said nothing more. Though clearly unwilling, he followed behind the 2 members of the White Crane clan. Under their guidance, he departed. He dared to refuse Shangguan Qingfeng, but he did not necessarily dare to refuse the Empress, Shinqiqi. Firstly, the reach of the Kanglan sacred land had not yet extended this far. Offending him was one thing. Secondly, he had already given enough face in this matter, and the Kanglan sacred land might not necessarily retaliate against him. But the Empress was different. She was one of the most formidable powers in the southern region, with cultivation already reaching the 7th layer of the Great Emperor realm. Under her command, there was an imperial general who could slay a 9th layer Great Emperor with a single strike, and given only his own meager 7th layer Great Emperor cultivation, he truly dared not act presumptuously. Afterward, he glanced helplessly at the flickering flame upon the ceiling, clasped his hands behind his back, and with a stern gaze commanded, "Do not just stand there, hurry and invite her in." Just as he finished speaking, his eyes darted about, as if he had realized something was amiss. He hastily flicked his sleeve, and urgently added, wait, where is the Empress?" "I went to see the Empress, and told her to come meet me. Do I truly possess such immense authority? Damn it, it was all because of that fool who nearly ruined everything." Following this, under the guidance of the clan member who had reported the news, they headed toward Mo Ran's group. Meanwhile, in a fairly spacious clearing within the territory of the White Crane clan, countless clansmen had gathered together. They gazed at the exquisite flying shuttle as it suddenly descended upon their grounds, erupting into curious discussions. Which faction does this flying shuttle belong to? Looking at the insignia, it appears to be the Qingyu dynasty. Is that possible? It seems it is indeed them. That woman on the shuttle looks familiar, though I cannot quite recall her identity. But the little one beside her is truly adorable. Save me. This human child is just too cute. Look quickly, she is waving her hand at me. While some focused on the flying shuttle and others were timid, many were rendered completely spellbound, mesmerized by Linger as she looked around and greeted everyone she saw. "Hi, beautiful sister over there. What is that thing on your head?" Linger, standing atop the flying shuttle, suddenly noticed a young woman in front. She pointed to a soft white palm-sized cloud-like tuft on the woman's head and asked curiously, "Huh? Are you calling out to someone, little one?" Because most members of the White Crane clan had a small tuft atop their heads, which were their contracted spirit beasts. They were momentarily confused by Linger's question. They were unsure whom the child was addressing as beautiful sister, yet each of them hoped it was themselves. After all, who does not enjoy being called beautiful? You all agree, do you not? To all the great beauties and handsome fellows of Tomato Fanky. Little sister, this is our contracted spirit beast. It is called a tranquility beast. Do not be deceived by its small size, for it can assist us in maintaining a calm mind during our cultivation, reducing the disturbances of the outside world while we practice, and it can even accelerate our cultivation speed. Apart from its inability to assist us in combat, there is nothing else about it that one could fault. I am willing to call it the best spirit beast. Many beautiful young ladies opened their mouths to answer Linger's questions. Lingji, hearing this from atop the imperial sword, became quite intrigued, so she jumped down, her small bare feet running forward in a steady trot, approaching the group without the slightest hint of shyness. The child walked up to one of the women, raised her head to stare at her, and in her sweet milky voice said, "Big sister, could you let me take a look at it?" Being addressed in such a way by the little one, the member of the White Crane tribe felt her entire heart soften. This is just too sweet. Could I take her home to raise for a few days? Of course you can. She crouched down, hurriedly taking the small snow-white creature curled atop her head, holding it in her hands before Linger so the child could observe it. This is the unique contract spirit beast of the White Crane tribe, from the 100 million Great Mountains. It is truly one of a kind. Every tribe member has one opportunity during their youth to establish a spiritual contract with a beast. Therefore, the majority of the White Crane clansmen possess one such creature. Of course, there are those who fail the attempt and remain without a spirit beast, but such cases are so rare they are negligible. The little creature was extremely small, about the size of a palm, its entire body covered in snow-white fur, with a pair of large, sea-blue eyes. Looking at the fluffy ball with intense curiosity, Ling Si extended her finger and poked the calm heart beast twice. It felt just like poking a piece of cotton candy. Truly soft. Immediately, Linger's eyes widened, as if she had discovered a new world. It was simply wonderful to touch. This action from the child caused everyone present to burst into laughter. It was exactly the same as the reaction they had when they first encountered the calm heart beast years ago. Right in the midst of their cheerful laughter, two figures were suddenly seen racing toward them from the distance at high speed. They hurriedly ceased their jesting, and facing the approaching figures, spoke in unison. Greetings, Patriarch. Chapter 32. He Shan nodded slightly toward them. Not pausing to stop, he proceeded directly to the side of Yu Jian, and bowed with cupped hands toward Yu Jian, saying, I was unaware of the Empress's arrival, and failed to provide a proper reception. Why was no messenger sent ahead to inform us? So that our clan could have prepared a worthy welcome for your esteemed presence? Patriarch He Shan, there is no need for such formalities. This sudden visit today may be an intrusion, and I hope for your indulgence, Patriarch. Shen Chi-Chi's voice emanated calmly from within the Yu Jian. Upon hearing this, He Shan suddenly let out a hearty laugh. How could that be? Your presence brings great honor to the White Crane clan. How could it be an intrusion? However, he suddenly cast a fleeting glance at Linger standing nearby, before shifting his gaze back to the Yu Jian. Continuing to address Yu Jian, I only wonder for what purpose you have graced us with your presence, for as the ruler of a domain, you must surely have countless affairs of state to attend to each day. If you have found the leisure to visit in person today, it must surely not be for a trivial matter. Otherwise, you would not have chosen to arrive yourself. A minor affair would have sufficed with a mere messenger, unless, of course, you have truly come for the spirit pool of our clan, though that would be quite unnecessary. First having seen off a holy son, now a formidable empress whom they could not afford to offend had arrived. Our spirit pool truly does not possess the efficacy to bring the dead back to life or regrow flesh upon bones. Those are merely exaggerated rumors spread by outsiders. At the very most, it can only save one who is on the brink of death with but a single breath remaining, and the price for doing so is immense. In non-critical situations, we truly cannot open it. But if she truly has come for this, how should I refuse her? The Qingyu Imperial Dynasty is not like the Kanglan Holy Land. The Kanglan Holy Land dare not act too recklessly in the 100,000 mountains, and they are located far away. But the Qingyu Imperial Dynasty is different. It is the hegemon of the southern region. Although they say it is only on the surface, that is only true for the imperial clans. White Crane clan, they are the true hegemons of the southern region. The imperial clans remain in seclusion, choosing to hide within their small worlds, clinging to their own territories like cowards. As for the true strength of the imperial clans, we know nothing. They are all just a bunch of hermits unwilling to emerge. Who can understand such people? However, they possessed a deep understanding of the Qingyu Imperial Dynasty. While their strength was not enough to sweep across the entire Million Mountain range, to wipe out his White Crane clan, they would have more than enough power, requiring no effort at all. It would be as easy as flipping one's palm. With the imperial clans not venturing into the world, the Qingyu Imperial Dynasty was the undisputed hegemon of the southern region. The Qingyu Imperial Dynasty was no longer the same dynasty it had been in the beginning. The current Qingyu Imperial Dynasty now possesses an emperor at the peak of the Great Emperor realm. In those early years, the tale of the Qingyu Emperor slaying a great emperor with a single sword strike caused a massive sensation. He struck down was no ordinary great emperor. He was Dongfang Jian, a genius great emperor from the Dongfang Imperial clan. Once he was struck down for 10 long years, the Dongfang Imperial clan did not dare to raise even a whisper against the Qingyu Imperial Dynasty. Was it that they dared not? That is exactly the case. Who could slay a great emperor with a single strike? Who possessed such confidence? I ask you, who truly has this capability? Reality has proven that no one does. At the very least, among equals in the Great Emperor realm, killing one's opponent is incredibly difficult, unless one possesses the power to slaughter across levels. But was Dongfang Jian of the Dongfang clan not a true 7th-layer Great Emperor? Not only that, but he also held the record of fighting a peak Great Emperor without suffering defeat. In other words, although Dongfang Jian was only at the 7th layer, he could challenge a peak Great Emperor, yet he was still slain by the Qingyu Emperor with a single stroke. The only one capable of such a feat is a peak Great Emperor, and one who can be described as peerless at that. Therefore, as long as one is not lacking in intelligence, no one with a sound mind would fail to realize that the current Qingyu Imperial Dynasty is by no means the one of the past. Even the imperial clans must show them a degree of deference. Given this, can these two words, surface level, really still be considered as such? It is quite obvious that they cannot. Having killed a great emperor of an imperial clan, the clan did not dare to utter a sound in retaliation. The Qingyu imperial dynasty is now the undisputed ruler of the southern region. But if they truly came for the spirit pool, what should he do when the time comes? Should he drag his son out from his deep cultivation within? No, that is impossible. That is absolutely out of the question. Thinking of this, he hurriedly shook his head. That was his own flesh and blood. Dragging him out would surely mean his death. But if this Empress truly desires the spirit pool, and if I refuse and incur her wrath upon the clan, what course of action should I take? Just as he was wearing a look of deep concern and hesitation, a voice devoid of joy or sorrow drifted once more from the royal carriage. The voice of Shen Shiqi. It completely dispelled his anxieties and wild speculations, allowing him to exhale a long sigh of relief. My visit today is merely to fulfill a small wish. There is no other agenda. Clan leader Heshan, please set your mind at ease. The young lady... Thinking to this point, he glanced at Linger, who was squatting nearby, her eyes fixed intently upon the contracted spirit beast of their White Crane clan. Is this the princess of the Qingyu imperial dynasty? She had come for the sake of a spirit beast. Realizing this, he breathed a sigh of relief. How fortunate, how fortunate. Thankfully, it was nothing of great consequence. It was only a spirit beast. After a brief discussion with those old fogies, securing one would not be a difficult task. Furthermore, the Qingyu imperial dynasty was far safer than his own territory. When it came to protection, his people could not compare to the Qingyu imperial dynasty in the slightest. Therefore, he reasoned that those elders would certainly not refuse. After all, was the initial intent of a spirit beast seeking a master not to find protection? Seeking a sanctuary, the Qingyu imperial dynasty was far too secure, far more so than his own humble abode. How fortunate, how fortunate. Thinking thus, Heshan narrowed his eyes, his gaze shifting away from Linger, and returning once more to the royal carriage. Just as he was about to speak with a smile, he caught sight of a familiar face. Instantly, the smile upon his face froze solid. He saw someone who, by all accounts, should have already been dead. Who else but Xiao Xiao? His once smiling countenance suddenly turned stiff and tense, and he raised his hand, pointing at Xiao Xiao, who had remained silent with her head bowed the entire time, before shouting out in a thunderous voice, "You wretch! You are still alive?" This sudden roar startled everyone present, and even Linger, who had been completely engrossed in observing the beast, was shocked by the abrupt outburst. When she saw that the target of his vitriol was Xiao Xiao, with one hand he shielded her behind his back. "My little ancestor, what are you doing?" This action caught Xiao Xiao completely off guard. What virtue did she possess to deserve this? She was merely a lowly servant. What right did she have to be shielded by her master? It was entirely too disrespectful. Furthermore, these were burdens she was meant to face alone. It should not be like this. Thinking this, she hurriedly pulled Linger behind her, then stepped forward, preparing to face everything herself. Yet, Shan's action sent a shockwave through every member of the White Crane clan present at the scene. That was the Empress's servant. "Patriarch, what are you doing? Do you no longer wish to live? Are you seeking death? What has come over the Patriarch? Why is he so enraged?" The members of the White Crane clan were all filled with confusion and doubt, unable to comprehend why their patriarch had suddenly begun to rage at a mere servant. But as they followed the direction of his pointing finger, and as everyone turned their gazes toward Xiao Xiao, they beheld a face that felt incredibly familiar to them. The memories that had been dormant and fading in their minds were gradually being awakened, becoming clearer and more distinct with every passing moment. You are Xiao Xiao, but which Xiao Xiao? Xiao Xiao. Chapter 33. A look at the past. She is the sinner of the White Crane clan. Was she not said to have perished? How is she still alive? Not only was she alive, but she seemed to have joined the Qingyu imperial dynasty, becoming a confidant to the current Empress, standing under the gaze of the masses. Xiao Xiao took a deep breath, facing Shan, who was seething with fury, looking as though he wished to tear her apart. She said, "Patriarch, the events of that year were Xiao Xiao's fault. I have come today to atone for my sins. I beg the Patriarch to punish me. No matter the punishment, Xiao Xiao will hold no resentment." Hearing this, Shan let out a cold, sharp laugh. Punishment? Atonement? What use is knowing your wrongs? Can my Jir wake up because of it? He had once believed he could let the matter fade into the past, but now, seeing the culprit before him, the flames of rage in his heart refused to be quelled. Even though so much time had passed since those events, that year his son, the young patriarch of the White Crane clan He was honored as the genius, most likely to ascend to the pinnacle of the great emperor realm within the White Crane clan. On the day of his coming-of-age ceremony, the elders of the White Crane clan decided to perform their sect's supreme secret art upon him, aiming to awaken the peerless physique of the White Crane clan, the myriad crane sacred body. However, the prerequisite for this awakening was the use of a transformation pill during the secret ritual, utilizing the power of the elixir to manifest into a human form, as only the human physique could properly bear the weight of the sacred body. After all, only a human form could optimally awaken the sacred body. The opportunity was singular, success was mandatory, and failure was not an option. This manifestation could not be flawed in any way. There could be no human body with a crane's head. There could be no human hands with a crane's body. There could be no human form with crane wings. It had to be a perfectly complete form. There are two ways for the demon race to achieve transformation. The first is through one's own cultivation, only attaining the ability to transform upon reaching the Demon King level. The other is through the use of a transformation pill. As the name suggests, the transformation pill is an incredibly precious treasure, worth more than 1,000 pieces of gold, required by beasts who have not yet reached the Demon King realm to manifest human form. That year, in order to obtain a single transformation pill, they sacrificed nearly half of their clan's resources. They had assumed that the awakening would be a matter of absolute certainty, and on the very day of the ritual, everything was proceeding as planned. But at the most critical juncture of the awakening, the process hit a stalemate during the administration of the transformation pill. The pill they had exhausted all their wealth to procure had vanished without a trace. Because of the missing transformation pill, his son He could not successfully transform. Unable to use the most perfect vessel to awaken the sacred body, he was forced to attempt the awakening, while still in his beast form, suffering a catastrophic backlash from the sacred body. Although the awakening technically succeeded, his life hung by a thread. Because his beast body was unable to withstand the immense energy unleashed during the awakening of the sacred body, the energy, lacking an effective conduit, surged within him, causing internal ruptures again and again. In the end, although the awakening was complete, half of his vitality was extinguished, leaving him on the brink of death. Therefore, had it not been for the White Crane clan's spirit pool, which possessed miraculous healing properties, she would have undoubtedly perished. And from that moment forward, He has been forced into a state of perpetual slumber, relying on the restorative powers of the spirit pool to sustain himself, a cultivation process that has already lasted for several hundred years. Since that time, the White Crane clan ceased to manifest their talents, choosing to retreat from the world, eventually dwindling into the state they are in today, neither contending nor competing, content to guard their own domain. Later, after an extensive investigation, they discovered the truth. The array guarding the transformation pill had been sabotaged. Someone had tampered with the formation, causing it to lose its intended efficacy. It turned out that young playful Xiao Xiao had stumbled into the storage chamber and, mistaking the transformation pill for a bean, had consumed it entirely. Consequently, when they learned of this but could not identify the one who had sabotaged the array, the White Crane clan chose to vent their fury upon the naive and innocent Xiao Xiao, and proceeded to exile her from the Beast clan when she was only 13 years old. Furthermore, because she had disrupted the awakening process, Xiao Xiao was naturally ostracized by many in the clan. The very moment her expulsion from the White Crane clan was announced, countless clansmen of the White Crane descended upon her in a brutal frenzy, leaving her on the verge of death until the Empress, passing by, saved her, and eventually made her a trusted confidant. She now serves as Linger's handmaiden. After deep and prolonged contemplation, He Shan, who had been seething with rage, felt the fire of his anger diminish by half, and the hand he had pointed at Xiao Xiao slowly lowered. As his hand descended, his expression shifted, turning to the side as he finally let out a long, heavy sigh. He appeared somewhat helpless, and as he lifted his head again, the resentment that had clouded his eyes for all these years had vanished. The events of that year were not entirely her fault. It was merely a cruel coincidence, yet she had been forced to bear the weight of it all alone. Had someone not tampered with the array, the outcome would surely have been different. To think that they, a group of elders, had blamed a naive, playful young girl simply because they could not find the true culprit. Reflecting on this, a clear expression of shame was etched upon his face, impossible to conceal. "Enough," he murmured, glancing at Xiao Xiao, who stood with her head bowed, awaiting further rebuke. He waved his hand dismissively. "Since you are no longer a member of the White Crane clan, and what was done is done, and the punishment has been served, let it end here." Hearing this, Xiao Xiao, who had been bowing her head, suddenly looked up, her face filled with disbelief. Though she heard He Shan's words, her heart remained heavy with turmoil, and the deep sorrow if it were not for her playful nature back then, and the fact that she consumed that precious transformation pill, the situation would surely not have deteriorated to such an extent. The young patriarch of the White Crane clan was hovering on the verge of death. Although he successfully awakened his divine body, the injuries sustained during the process left a permanent scar. Even by utilizing the spirit pool of the White Crane clan to facilitate recovery, it remained difficult to restore him completely. Over these years, He had not remained entirely unconscious, but each time she awoke, she could barely remain lucid for half a day. Every time she woke, the period of her subsequent slumber would double. This condition was a lingering affliction caused by her incomplete awakening. "Patriarch," she whispered, desiring to retrieve the Emperor pill clutched in her hand to make amends, but her fingers remained locked, and she could not lift her arm. Her reason told her that she could not do such a thing. It was strictly forbidden. Very well, I am no longer your patriarch, and you are no longer a member of the White Crane clan. Upon uttering this title, he cast a fleeting glance at the imperial carriage, its weight far more than I could bear. He naturally understood the intent. For a mere spirit beast, the Empress had made too much of a fuss over the White Crane clan. Her coming here was, first and foremost, for the spirit beast, and secondly, to serve as a pillar of support for Xiao Xiao, or perhaps, to signal to him that the grievances of the past should be laid to rest. The burden of guilt that young girl had carried all these years was no less than their own. You may punish her however you see fit. Xiao Xiao did not protest his judgment, but if it meant the sacrifice of her life, that was entirely out of the question. Because she belongs to Qingyu now, she is my person. Hearing this, Xiao Xiao stood frozen like a stone statue, completely at a loss for what to do. As the agony in her body intensified, she knew she could not simply depart unscathed. She could not, she must not, and she was not permitted to leave. She had come to atone for her sins, but how was she supposed to find redemption? To end her own life, she feared not death, but to do so would dishonor the Empress's residence. Just as she was gripped by profound suffering, uncertain of what choice to make, a serene and untainted voice drifted quietly from the imperial carriage. Very well, there is no need to reproach yourself so deeply. The events of that year were not entirely your fault. Once the voice faded, a hand, fair and flawless, slender and devoid of any impurities, was slowly raised. The jade curtain was lifted, and a tall figure clad in white robes descended slowly from the carriage. With one arm he embraced Linger, who had been standing dazed to the side. An aura radiated from his body, reminiscent of a celestial being descended from the heavens. He appeared as a true immortal walking amongst the mortal realm. Moran, my judgment in choosing you was truly impeccable. Chapter 34. 10 revolutions return to 1. White garments untainted by dust. Seeing that it was Moran who embraced her, Lingyi cried out with unconcealed joy. Moran raised his hand and gently flicked her small nose. He then cast his gaze toward Hishan, a faint smile gracing his lips. Clan leader Hishan, may I ask where your son is currently located? Is this truly the emperor of the Qingyu dynasty? He is so handsome and possesses such a gentle temperament. Within the White Crane clan, many young maidens who had just come of age, their hearts blossoming with the stirrings of first love, watched as Mos Ran descended from the imperial carriage. A faint blush could not help but color their cheeks, appearing utterly enchanting. In truth, Moran had no intention of descending, but having overheard their conversation, he found the situation quite intriguing, and could not resist activating his eye of truth upon Hishan. Everything that transpired in those years played out like a slide, visible at a single glance. Not a single detail remained hidden, revealing the entire truth before him. Roughly speaking, it was merely a minor misunderstanding that had escalated. Although this trivial matter had inflicted significant wounds upon the White Crane clan, it was ultimately a consequence of their own mismanagement. It could only be said that they had sown the wind and were now reaping the whirlwind, inviting their own destruction. It was precisely because of this that the White Crane clan had kept to the shadows all these years, avoiding participation in major conflicts or territorial disputes within the 100,000 Great Mountains. In summary, compared to the past, the White Crane clan appeared somewhat subdued today. They would not venture out unless a grave matter arose, choosing to endure and bear whatever difficulties came their way. The moment Hishan saw Moran step down from the imperial carriage, he was struck with deep astonishment. He had originally assumed only the Empress would arrive, never expecting the rumored emperor to accompany her. However, upon hearing the words Moran spoke as he descended, his heart began to race. When he was asked about his son's whereabouts, a hint of wariness flashed across his face, and he replied that he did not know. Hearing this, Emperor Moran let out a soft laugh and remarked, "Every event has its cause and effect, and every matter has its own right and wrong." With that, he retrieved a small jade bottle from his system space. This is the 10-turn convergence pill, a masterpiece produced by a disciple. It possesses no other effects, but its ability to heal wounds is supreme. As long as one can still draw breath, a single pill will allow them to recover their vitality instantly. Each person can only use this pill once in their lifetime. Because it is exceedingly precious, merely witnessing it once is a stroke of fortune for a lifetime. Moran merely flicked his sleeve, and the jade bottle flew directly toward Hishan's hand. As the jade bottle suddenly hurtled toward him, Hishan was filled with doubt and confusion, yet he instinctively reached out to catch it. After all, the person before him was the emperor consort of a female sovereign, a powerhouse at the pinnacle of the great emperor realm. How could an object gifted by him be anything ordinary? In that very instant, as his hand touched the jade bottle, Moran's voice echoed once again. "Although I am unaware of the nature of your son's injuries, I believe this 10-turn convergence pill should suffice." The 10-turn convergence pill? What manner of treasure is this? Having said that, he glanced tenderly at the person in his arms and smiled. "Consider this a return gift." With that, he looked toward the bewildered Hishan. "Patriarch Hishan, I wonder if it might be possible for us to take one of the spirit beasts from your White Crane clan with us?" Naturally. Upon hearing that the medicinal pill gifted by Mo Ran could save his son's life, Hishan was overcome with immense joy. Although he had never seen such a pill before, and did not know its true efficacy, he reasoned that given Mo Ran's status and prestige, he would surely not use such a matter to tease him, nor would he deceive him. On second thought, however, a glimmer of sorrow flickered in his eyes. Over these past years, he had sought out countless healing elixirs. If not 70 or 80% of those available in the lower realm, he had exhausted all options, yet none could cure his son. Thus, amidst his joy, he felt a sting of bitterness. Yet no matter the circumstances, as long as there remained a flicker of hope, he would continue to try. He would never surrender. As for why Mo Ran bestowed the pill upon him, the first reason was that he perceived how much Linkener favored the spirit beasts here. Secondly, it was for Xiao Xiao. After all, she had cared for Linger for so long, and as a trusted confidant of the Empress, while she bore some fault in the incident that occurred, the blame could not be placed entirely upon her. Moreover, for these past few hundred years, she had already suffered enough, so if he could offer her some small assistance, he would. After all, to him, saving one person was hardly a difficult task. As the Emperor witnessed this, Xiao Xiao whispered softly from the sidelines. In this moment, the expression on her face was one of profound complexity. Regarding Mo Ran's actions, she felt deeply grateful, yet simultaneously, she felt that it was hardly worth the effort. A sinner like her, wasting a precious medicinal pill of the Emperor, it was truly unbefitting. All of these occurrences were entirely her fault. Had it not been for her, the White Crane clan would never have fallen into such a state. Thinking of this, guilt washed over her, and she could not help but lower her head in remorse. Very well. Seeing Xiao Xiao's gaze fixed upon him, Mo Ran waved his hand, signaling that there was no need to say anything more. Let the past remain in the past. Furthermore, saving a life was not a particularly difficult endeavor for him. It was merely a trivial matter. Mo Ran looked toward the White Crane clan patriarch, Hishan, who was lost in his own thoughts. Standing dazed where he was, he called out to him softly, signaling for him to lead the way to see the spirit beasts of this place. Hishan hurried to respond with a stutter. Recovering his senses, he immediately bowed low and cupped his hands in respect toward Mo Ran. Speaking reverently, Lord Emperor, please, follow me this way. Having said this, he quickened his pace and led the way forward.